One afternoon, as the pale yellow sunlight filtered through the ancient trees, little kitten Ti Teo walked on the rough stone path of the ancient stone garden relic site. Ti Teo's bright orange fur glistened in the light, his pink coat fluttered in the wind, and his cute little backpack swung behind him. In his hand, Ti Teo held the old camera his father had given him before he set off on his first adventure. "Capture the most beautiful moments, my son," his father had said, and Ti Teo was determined to do just that. The ancient stone garden relic site is a mysterious place, with giant rocks stacked on top of each other as if arranged by the skillful hands of nature. The moss-covered stone arches interspersed with lush green trees created a scene that was both majestic and peaceful. Ti Teo loved this place, not only for its beauty but also for the sense of freedom it brought. He stopped, raised his camera, and aimed it at a curved stone arch that looked like a portal to another world. Click! The sound rang out, and Tiny smiled with satisfaction. Suddenly, from behind a large rock, a small figure emerged. It was a baby panda with soft black and white fur and round, sparkling eyes. The panda stood there, its two tiny hands clasped in front of its chest, its mouth open in an expression of surprise and joy. "Oh my gosh, a real photographer!" the panda exclaimed, his voice as clear as wind chimes. Tiny was startled, almost dropping the camera. Who are you?" the cat asked, his orange ears pricking up curiously. "I'm Pokey," the panda replied, skipping closer. "I live here in the ancient rock garden. I've never seen anyone wearing a pink jacket and a backpack. Where are you from? What are you trying to photograph?" Ti Teo smiled shyly, scratching his head. "I'm Ti Teo. I like taking pictures, recording beautiful things. I came here to find a story, maybe." Pokey clapped his hands, his eyes shining. "A story! Oh, I love it! There are so many secrets here, you know. These rocks, they tell stories. Do you want to hear them?" And so, under the gentle sunset, the two new friends sat down next to a large rock. Pokey began to tell about the ancient stone garden, a place that used to be home to magical creatures, where each rock carried a memory from hundreds of years ago. Ti Teo listened, his eyes sparkling, and an idea popped into his head. "I'll record Pokey's story with pictures." The next day, Ti Teo and Pokey decided to explore deeper into the ancient stone garden together. Ti Teo carried a backpack and held a camera while Pokey skipped ahead, pointing with her little hands. "Follow me! I'll show you the most special place," Pokey said, her voice full of excitement. They walked through winding trails where moss covered the rocks and birds chirped. Teo kept stopping to take pictures, a wildflower growing between the rocks, a butterfly perched on a dome, and Pokey's radiant smile as he jumped over a small stream. Each photo was a piece of the puzzle, and Teo felt strangely warm in his heart. Their destination was a cave hidden behind a giant boulder. Inside, light shone down from cracks in the ceiling, creating shimmering streaks like the Milky Way. In the middle of the cave was a clear lake, reflecting everything like a giant mirror. Pokey stood by the lake, clasped her hands, her eyes sparkling. "This is Mirror Lake," Pokey whispered. "They say if you look into it and make a wish, it will show you what you really want." Simba curiously walked over and looked down at the water. In the clear water, he saw his reflection. An orange cat with a pink coat, but next to him was Pokey, and in the distance were beautiful scenes he had never seen before. I want to tell the story of this world," Simba said, his voice trembling. "I want people to see the wonders in my photos." Pokey clapped his hands and cheered. "That's great! Then we have to keep going. There are many more places for you to take pictures." But just then a loud noise came from afar. Rocks rolled down and the ground shook. Simba and Pokey looked at each other in panic. "What's going on?" Simba shouted, clutching his camera. Pokey grabbed Simba's hand and pulled him out of the cave. "Hurry, maybe the rock garden is waking up." When they ran outside, the scene had changed. Large rocks began to move, forming new paths. A giant stone arch slowly opened, revealing a staircase leading underground. Pokey stood still, his hands clasped, his mouth agape. "I've never seen this before. This must be an ancient secret." Small, despite his fear, raised his camera. Click! He took a picture of the magical moment. "We have to go down and see, Pokey. This could be the biggest story I've ever recorded." They held hands and walked down the stairs. The dim light from the glowing stones on the walls guided their way. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, they entered a large room where stone carvings told of a time long ago. Small creatures like Little and Pokey lived in harmony, protecting the ancient stone garden from the darkness. But then, one day, the darkness came, and they had to seal the place to keep it safe. In the middle of the room was a sparkling gem, emitting a warm light. Pokey approached and touched the gem. Suddenly, a voice rang out from nowhere. "Little friends, you have awakened the memories of the stone garden. Bring back the light, as your ancestors did." Tiny looked at Pokey, then at the camera in his hand. "The light? Are those my photos? I can tell this story so that everyone will remember this place." Pokey nodded, his eyes shining. "And I will help you. We are a team." Tiny and Pokey spent the next few days exploring and photographing every corner of the ancient stone garden. Tiny took beautiful pictures. Pokey standing on a rock with a bright smile, the sunlight shining through the stone dome, and the sparkling gem in the secret room. Each photo was a story, a piece of memory. Finally, they decided to bring the photos to the outside world. Tiny entered them into a photography contest with a small tag in the lower right corner of each photo. Tiny, Tails, and Kittens, the name Pokey had come up with for their journey. On the day the results were announced, Tiny and Pokey waited anxiously. And then the good news came. They won the grand prize. Their photos were displayed everywhere, and people started coming to the ancient stone garden to explore. The place was no longer forgotten. It was alive, shining like the light from a gem. At the exhibition, Tiny stood next to Pokey, watching everyone marvel at the photos. "See, Pokey, we did it," Tiny whispered. Pokey clasped her hands, smiling. "Yeah, and you know what? I think this is just the beginning." Under the sunset once again, Ti Teo and Pokey sat on a large rock, looking out at the ancient stone garden, which was now more bustling than ever. Ti Teo raised his camera, capturing the moment Pokey clasped her hands, her eyes sparkling with hope. Click! The sound rang out, and Ti Teo smiled. "You're right, Pokey. This is just the beginning. We have many more stories to tell." And so, with his camera in hand and his best friend by his side, Ti Teo began a new journey, a journey to capture the wonders of the world one photo at a time. As time passed, the ancient stone garden not only became a famous destination, but also a place to preserve beautiful memories of Ti Teo and Pokey. One autumn evening, when the golden leaves fell and sparkled under the moonlight, they held a small festival to celebrate their journey. The lanterns were lit, hanging from the stone arches, creating a dreamlike scene. Ti Teo, still wearing her familiar pink jacket and backpack, raised her camera to capture Pokey dancing in the light, her hands clasped in pure joy. People came from all over, bringing their own smiles and stories. An old man sat by a large rock, recounting that he had heard his ancestors mention the ancient stone garden as a place of miracles. A little girl hugged a stuffed panda, whispering that she wanted to become a photographer like Ti Teo. All were connected by the photos, the pieces of light that Ti Teo and Pokey brought. As the festival drew to a close, Ti Teo and Pokey stood on a high rock, looking down at the crowd. Ti Teo took a deep breath, then said loudly, "Thank you everyone for coming here, for listening to our story. These photos are not just mine or Pokey's, but all of you, those who believe in the magic of this world." Pokey clapped her hands, jumping up and down beside her. "That's right, and we will continue to tell new stories because there are so many beautiful things waiting out there." The crowd applauded enthusiastically, and the light from the lantern seemed brighter than ever. Teo raised his camera one last time, capturing that moment of friendship, of hope, and of connection. Click! Like the sound rang out, like a promise that their journey would never stop. As the moonlight gradually faded and everyone slowly left, Ti Teo and Pokey sat together, looking up at the starry sky. "Where do you think we're going next?" Pokey asked, her voice full of excitement. Ti Teo smiled, gently stroking the camera. "Anywhere, as long as you're by my side." The story of the orange cat Ti Teo and the panda Pokey ended in a soft light. Thank you, wonderful viewers.